Thank you for joining us at OKI's Digital Transfer Show. Today's show will highlight different techniques and different transfer media to produce shirts that have a higher value and can deliver you greater profits. I'm your virtual host, Jim Fuchs, Product Manager for OKI's line of digital transfer printers. We know how important your time is, and we thank you for joining us today. Many of us are working from home and are thrilled to be able to continue offering support, training, and these webinars highlighting the capabilities of OKI transfer printers. This is especially true today with our industry expert. He will demonstrate how to create shirts with vibrant colors, fluorescence, and even metallic foils. He'll show you how easy it is with step-by-step instructions. Afterwards, you'll be able to apply similar techniques and open the door to new revenue opportunities, providing highly customized shirts easily and on demand. For today's show, we're very fortunate to have Doug DeWitt from Conde Systems. Doug is the guru of heat transfer. You have likely seen some of his many how-to videos on CondeTV.com or have run into Doug at the Conde booth at many trade shows. RJ Richter from ISW is also helping out today. RJ, are you there?
Hey guys, how you doing?
So RJ, Doug, and I are here to answer your questions. As an attendee to this conference, your audio has been muted. However, you can type your questions into the Q&A box at the bottom of the Zoom window at any time during the webinar. And after the demo, we'll have a live Q&A to answer your questions. Doug is standing by in the Conde studio. So let's switch it over to Doug and get the show started.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for having me on. My name is Douglas DeWitt. I am the Transfer Paper Product Manager here at Conde Systems Incorporated, located in beautiful Mobile, Alabama. I'm happy to be with you today to showcase some of the things that you can do with your OKI white toner system that are out of the realm of what the system was initially designed to do. Now, if you're familiar with an OKI white toner system, if you've been to a trade show, been to Conde's booth, stopped by the OKI booth, you might be familiar with the type of output that the OKI can deliver. So I'm going to click on this camera and show you some examples of typical OKI output done with the system. As you can see, we're all familiar with the OKI white output in the fact that not only can we use white as a underlying color or an opaque color to fill in behind our color background, but we can also use it as a process color. And with some of the self-weeding papers that are available on today's market, then basically what you can do with an OKI white toner system is you can generate a screen printed effect done with a digital transfer. This gives you many advantages, such as being able to prep your work beforehand and apply your designs later. You don't have to do any type of pre-treatment to the garment like other printing methods that are on the market. And the fact that we can decorate so many different types of materials with the paper in the system. For instance, this shirt here is on 100% cotton. But we can also decorate items such as cotton poly blends, 100% polyesters. We can go on to materials such as nylon, polypropylene, leather products, wood products, even other paper products. And as you can see, we can work with line art, clip art, or vectorized designs. But we can also work with photographic reproductions as well. This is one of the great features of the OKI system, is delivering this type of photographic quality. So not only can we produce it using multicolored designs, but what I'm going to teach you today is working with what we call self-weeding vinyl, mainly a material called Forever FlexSoft material or Forever FlexSoft No Cut, as well as working with new products that are on the market, such as hot stamping foils. Now, this graphic that you see here, This is the graphic that we're going to work with today. We're going to reproduce this graphic 3 different ways. We're going to do it as a full bleed design, the way the OKI white toner system initially intended, but we're also going to do a design and show you how to use the hot stamping foils to decorate. And we're going to work with Forever's most popular product, which is called FlexSoft No Cut. Also in this demonstration, we're going to teach you how to layer Forever FlexSoft No Cut so you can get a multicolored design and enhance your digital output. So that's basically what we're going to talk about today. We're going to work with that graphic that I showed you, and we're essentially going to produce the graphic 3 different methods. The first method, we're going to use the Forever Low Temp Laser Dark No Cut offered by Forever Paper based in Germany, and we're going to produce a transfer the way an OKI white toner system is originally intended. And then after that, I'm going to show you how to use your OKI white toner system and your heat press to create both the foil and the vinyl effect. Now, in order to properly demonstrate how we set up the artwork, what I'm going to do is bring you into the program that we use here at Conde called the Forever Transfer RIP. This RIP program is known as a raster image processing program. What it helps the OKI do is regulate the amount of white toner that the OKI deposits behind the color toner. Where this is important is being able to achieve a softer hand or feel to the garment. Now, because we're able to reduce the white toner, we can also save a little bit in our production cost with the RIP. The second thing that the RIP does is what we call rasterization or screening. This is basically putting a perforation pattern within the design that allows the design to be flexible and breathable, so it doesn't feel hot or heavy. Now, what that helps with is when we make the design perforated and we wash and dry the garment, water is able to flow freely through the design. And therefore, if it's not butting up against the emulsion surface, the design stays intact as opposed to cracking prematurely. So there are a lot of advantages within using a RIP program. So let me jump to my RIP program real quick just to give you a quick demonstration on how I set up this particular art file to work with the Forever Low Temp Laser Dark and the OKI white toner system. So here I am in my Forever Transfer RIP. As far as a basic walkthrough on the RIP operation, let's get started. The first thing I'm going to do is specify the profile that I intend to use with my OKI white toner system. Notice here that the profiles are based on the type of transfer paper being operated through the OKI. Since we're going to be working with the Laser Dark No Cut Low Temp, I just go ahead and select that as my profile. Now, the next thing I want to do is make sure that I have my proper page size selected and then load my file. Once the file appears in the RIP, I can click on a preview of the file to bring it within the RIP. Now you notice we have the design here with a white background associated to it. One of the neat tricks we can do with our RIP program is we can assign a background color to the design to make sure not only is our artwork laid out correctly, but that we have white as a base color and process color where we need. We also have some other basic controls, such as being able to adjust the brightness, or being able to adjust the saturation or contrast or hue. So we can enhance the graphic while we have it within the RIP. We can also do things like selectively remove and replace colors, which is located here. But that's a lesson for another time. Let's just move on to the spot channel fill up, or in essence, the white channel control of the Forever Transfer RIP. We can disable white printing or turn white on with a mere click. One of the nice features of the RIP is there are recommended coverage settings depending on whether you're going to a darker garment or a lighter color garment. But essentially, you can control how much white toner is deposited behind the page. I'm going to go with the default 200% coverage because we're going on to a black garment. Another nice feature is underfilling. Underfilling is essentially a choke feature to the RIP that keeps the pixels from printing all the way to the edge. This will help eliminate any white edging that you might see from time to time doing these transfers. We can also select partial transparency, which means if our design has a natural transition or fade, the RIP will print the design with that transition or fade. And so now we're on the final step of the RIP, which is sending it to our OKI 8432WT white toner printer. Of course, I've got the RIP set up to automatically mirror or reverse the graphic because we'll need to do this with the paper process. Now with this particular design, since the design itself is made to be distressed, I went ahead and used the screening from printer option. This would be the same option as if we were printing straight from the OKI 8432WT driver. The only difference is we're regulating the amount of white. But you'll notice here, we have options to go to bright media, which is telling the RIP we're going on to a white t-shirt, dark media, which is telling the RIP that we're going on to a black shirt, or we have the ability to micromask the entire design, which is the option I use normally whenever I'm going to a colored garment. But like I said, since this design is already distressed, I just select screening from printer. Now, the user type 1 media type here is a pre-programmed media type from OKI specifically for the Forever Low Temp Laser Dark paper. So whenever you use this product, make sure that your RIP, your driver, and the multi-purpose tray are set to user type 1, and you should have no issues printing. The only other slight change I'll make here is I'm going to disable the ICC profile because I selected the profile in the first step by telling the RIP I was printing to the low temp laser dark. But what this option allows you to do is if you have the ability to generate your own color profiles, they can be loaded within the RIP. Now, one more nice feature I want to show you about the RIP before we hit the print button. We have a calculation feature within the RIP. So in other words, we can select our particular job, and the RIP will add up all the consumable cost as well as the cost for your media. So you have an exact cost per print on what it will take to produce your graphic. And if you output this, it will generate a PDF report that remembers all of your RIP settings. So if you need to go back and do the job again 6 months from now or 6 years from now, you've got all the settings saved. So that's just a quick demonstration of the settings that I used in the Forever Transfer RIP to produce the graphic. So now let me go ahead and click the print button here, and let's get started with our first transfer, which is using the Forever Low Temp Laser Dark. Okay. So here's the design generated off of the OKI Pro 8432WT onto the Forever Low Temp Laser Dark film. Now this is what they call the A foil or A sheet. This is the sheet that we feed through the unit to receive the toner. We print the graphic mirrored or reversed. So this coated side here is the side where we've captured the toner. So now what we're going to do is what we call the self-weeding or marrying process to this sheet so that we can go ahead and apply this design onto any color garment. So let me go ahead and just get one quick step going. I'm bringing my heat press platen down to warm up the platen of my heat press. So I've got my A foil sheet here. Let me grab my B sheet. The B sheet here has basically a powdered white coating fused to the sheet. What we're going to do is when these two sheets are in the heat press put together, the white opaque coating will stick to the toner on the design. So we're basically putting a white base behind the toner so that we can stand out against a color background. The trick to the process is wherever this emulsion sheet comes in direct contact with this film sheet, the chemical blocker on this film keeps this emulsion from sticking. So basically, if anybody is familiar with the old days of putting a dark design or putting a design on a dark garment, we had to print onto what was called opaque film and then use something like a vinyl cutter to physically cut out our graphic, move the pieces over with application tape, and set it to the garment. Those days are done. This process is very simple. What I'm going to do here with my B sheet, I like to put my B sheet on a warm platen just in case there might be any moisture. A few seconds, it dries it right out. So we're going to take the toner side of our A sheet. We're going to take the emulsion side of our B sheet. We are going to line up the two sheets, one over the other. We're going to place them on top of the press. I am going to take another sheet of butcher paper, just protected paper, put it over, and I'm pressing between 315 to 330 degrees Fahrenheit for 1.5 to 2 minutes, depending on the physical size of the sheet. Since this sheet is 11 by 17, I'm going to go the full 2 minutes. As far as the pressure is concerned, if you're using a manual swing away heat press, you want to set the pressure where you feel a little bit of resistance in the handle before the handle snaps shut, what I would call a medium pressure. If you happen to have an air operated press, you want to start at about 45 to 55 psi. Now, as you're doing this marrying step or self-weeding step, a couple of things to keep your eyes on. When we peel the two sheets apart, we want to do it while it's still warm. So for safety's sake, I will take my heat-resistant glove and get ready. Some other things that we want to look for is when we separate the A sheet and B sheet. If we notice there are areas where the toner was not covered by the white emulsion, generally speaking, what that means is our temperature is too low or our pressure is too low. Make an adjustment to the temperature first, then the pressure. If you peel the two sheets apart and you notice white specks around your design where they don't belong, that's usually an indicator of using too much heat or too much pressure. Start by backing your temperature down by about 5 or 10 degrees and try again. If that doesn't resolve the issue, try reducing your pressure by 1/4 or 1/2 a turn. But knowing these things going in, and of course getting the hang of the paper, you'll start to learn the process, so to speak. Now, this is essentially the money step. Once we apply the emulsion to that toner, our transfer is ready to go. In essence, it's like being able to produce our own plastisol transfer in-house. Because like I said, we can go to any fabric material, it can be any color, and as far as the design is concerned, it'll store for up to a year. So, I'm going to remove my cover sheet. I'm going to start at one corner, separating the B from the A, and I'm holding the A film against the warm platen as I slowly peel the B paper toward me. And the reason I'm doing this is because the heat off the bottom platen allows me to do a low, slow peel. If we try to peel it too fast, what can happen is we might actually nip a corner where we don't lay down the emulsion precisely. But now that we have the emulsion applied to the back of this sheet is ready to become our transfer. Might be hard to see in the camera, so right here, but just to let you know, if you've done the process to correct, you should see a perfect indentation of your original design within this B sheet. Now, once you use the B sheet, it goes into the transfer. Like I said, this sheet is ready to go. Now, whenever we apply the B sheet to the A foil, sometimes the B sheet might catch a hard edge. So what I'm going to do here, guys, I'm going to take my autocorrect tool, and I'm going to do a quick trim around the design to remove that edging. Now, by chance, if we forget to remove the edging and it gets applied to the garment, there is a way to remove the edging using heat-resistant tape. We have a video on that on Conde TV, just so you know. So at this point, this design gets applied to t-shirt. So let me remove this protective sheet real quick. Now I'm going to grab a t-shirt. For demonstration purposes, I'm using a Hanes Beefy Tee 100% cotton t-shirt. But like I said, this material could be a cotton poly blend, it could be a tri-blend, it could even be 100% polyester. Doesn't matter. We can decorate with this product, and if there's polyester within the material, the dyes are not going to migrate into the white base or into the toner because we apply at such a low temperature. One of the nice features of this product. We put our t-shirt on the press, smooth it out as best we can, and we take my favorite tool of the trade, the Dollar Sticky Lint Roller. I love my Dollar Sticky Lint Roller. As soon as I learn how to roll it in the right direction, but the reason we take the Dollar Sticky Lint Roller is to make sure there are no contaminants on the shirt. So, I'm going to use a protective cover sheet. I'm going to preheat the shirt just for about 4 or 5 seconds. Don't even lock it in. Just use the weight of the platen. But the reason I do that is so I have a nice smooth area. Now I can take my design. We want it right reading. We place the design where we want it to appear. We cover with our protective sheet. And we apply the design to the garment for 30 seconds. Pressure-wise, I'm using the same pressure that I used to do the Marion step with the A sheet and the B sheet. Now, depending on the material content, we might have to lower the platen temperature. Usually, Jim, the more polyester content that's within the material, the lower set temperature we want to use to apply the material. But once our 30 seconds is up, we remove our t-shirt. Now at this point, what we want to do is we want to let this shirt cool because the film needs to be removed cold. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to use a piece of aluminum. We have a lot of them around here at Conde, and I'm going to use the aluminum to rapidly cool that transfer. But just to show you guys how it works, and Sprite, if you can get an overhead shot for me, I would appreciate it. Thank you. So here's one that I did before that I went ahead and let cool down so we could see how to remove the film. What we want to do is we want to roll the material. We don't want to lift up because if we do, some of the design may want to stay on the film, not release. So we roll it off. The less noise it makes, the better off we are. But as you can see, even with this small text type, we get a beautifully weeded design. So that's how we knock out a full color design using our OKI white toner system. The last step I would have to do to this transfer would be cover it with what we call a non-stick silicone sheet and repress it for about 30 seconds just to make sure that the emulsion and toner is set within the garment. But once we do that, this shirt is basically ready to wear out the door right now. Okay, Sprite, let's get back to me here. Okay. So that's how we use the Forever Low Temp Laser Dark, what we call a self-weeding dark garment paper, and use the OKI white toner system to basically apply a custom design to a garment. Pretty easy, right? Well, now let's show you some of the other things you can do with these self-weeding papers, okay? What I've got here, this is a shirt that I've already done the first prep step to. You'll notice the design is basically black on black. Why are we doing this? We're giving the design, we're using it as a target. What we're going to do to this design is we're going to apply hot stamp foil to this. So in other words, we're going to take this black graphic and we're going to lay some sparkly over the top. Now, when it comes to the hot stamping foil, there are numerous colors available. This is a product that we've been evaluating here at Conde for the past few months, and we're looking to bring it in. We should be getting our initial stocking order of this stuff within a couple of weeks. What we love about this is, one, the roll itself is relatively inexpensive. The rolls range from about $20 to $35 per roll, depending on how fancy the roll is. Now, the rolls generally are about 11.8 inches by about 39 or 40 feet. Now, from my calculations, what that will give you is the ability to do about 55 transfers if you were to do a full bleed 8.5 by 11, or about 28 to 30 transfers if you were doing full bleed 11 by 17. As far as the cost is concerned, you basically want to figure a cost of about 1/2 cent per square inch of coverage to maybe about 7/10 of a cent per square inch full coverage. So my point is that this material is not expensive at all, but it can produce some absolute killer effects, not to mention from our testing, it's extremely durable. So let me show you how we apply the heat foil. I cut off the piece I want. I've got my design here. As you can see, we already have the low temp laser dark on the shirt. I'm going to put the shirt with the low temp already on it. Take my sheet of hot stamp foil. Just line it up, make sure it covers. I am going to use what is called a silicone sheet or anti-stick or non-stick sheet, just to protect the press. And when I apply the foil, I'm only going to apply it for about 10 to 15 seconds. In other words, get it just to stick on top of the self-weeding design we lay down with the low temp laser dark. That should be enough. Okay. Let's pull this off here. And just like the other product, I'm going to use my sheet of metal to rapidly cool the hot stamp foil. Now, when I lift the metal off, just want to be careful. And at this point, we should just simply peel back. Look at that, pretty cool. So now what we're going to do is put the interior of the design here using a different color. So let's figure out how we layer a design using the Forever Low Temp and using the hot stamp foil. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put the design back on the press. Now, as far as the low temp paper, Give me 1 second, guys. There is the interior of the design. Again, all I used is what was called composite black in the 8432 WT. Now, basically what that means is printing with your cyan, magenta, and yellow to have it create process black, and you turn the white toner off, okay? So basically what you do is you go through the marrying or self-weeding step. You apply the B sheet over it, you press it for 1.5 to 2 minutes, you separate the 2 sheets while they're hot. But once you got the 2 sheets separated, you should have your design with the emulsion over it. And I went ahead and skipped a step for time purposes. But now what we're going to do is set the interior design to our graphic. So I'm just going to cut around. Yes, the hands of a surgeon, ladies and gentlemen. Okay. So let's take the interior of our design, place it where we want to appear. That looks pretty good. Make sure we protect the design with a non-stick silicone sheet. Now the trick is we don't hit it for the full 30 seconds. I'm only going to hit it for 10-15 seconds, long enough for the emulsion to grab the shirt and release from the film, but not so long that it already affects my layer on the surface. That's the trick. So again, about 10 to 15 seconds inside of your heat press, using the same temperature that you used to do the original marrying or self-weeding step. I'm going to remove my protective cover sheet. I'll put my shirt back on the table. Again, using my piece of metal or my piece of aluminum to rapidly cool. Now we want to carefully roll. And now we have the interior design laid down. This is essentially acting as a target for the hot stamping foil to stick. So now let me get another piece of hot stamping foil. I don't know about that one. Ah, there we go. Silver bubbles. Much better. Okay. So let's roll out enough to cover the interior portion. Let's use some scissors. And when it comes to cutting this hot stamping foil, just from my observation, the sharper the scissors, the better it cuts. So you might have to go out and invest in some new scissors. But now we're ready to apply the second part. We're going to put the shirt back on our heat press. Smooth it out. Let's take our silver bubble sparkly glitter, and we want the glitter side up. We're going to cover it. Now, like I said, the trick here is we only want to hit this for about 10 to 15 seconds. Long enough for the silver glitter to stick to the low temp laser dark, but not so long that it sticks to the orange confetti that we already laid down. Let me just get another protective sheet. And again, 10 to 15 seconds to apply your second layer. So if we were doing a third layer or fourth layer or a fifth layer, it's the same procedure. Basically, we're cutting down the time to make sure we don't overlap colors, that they lay down the way they're supposed to. So let's gently take our shirt. Let's rapidly cool. Now, as far as the way that you rapidly cool, I'm using aluminum. I've seen some people use glass. I've seen some people use metal. I've even known some people who have gone out on Craigslist and bought an old fridge to throw shirts in. However you want to do it is fine by me, as long as the process works. So now, if we gently peel away, is that cool or what? And that's how we do this two-tone effect with the same output, just using a different paper product. So at this point, what we want to do is we want to make sure that we set all of these layers. And again, that's just grabbing our non-stick sheet or an anti-stick sheet. And at this point, we want to take 25 to 30 seconds to set all the layers to the garment. Now, as far as your anti-stick sheet or your silicone sheet, as long as you don't get toner on it, you can keep reusing the sheet. Once toner starts to accumulate, you probably want to get rid of it and use a fresh sheet. Another thing I want to point out is, and I should have done it earlier, you notice I don't have any Teflon on the top platen or bottom platen of my press. And the reason is Teflon has a tendency to retain moisture, and moisture has a tendency to wreak havoc when it comes to these transfers. But there is our finished design. I'm going to lay it on the table one more time, just so I can show you. One last thing, you might see some residual glitter where it doesn't belong. If that's the case, just take your autocorrect tool and we can pick that right up. See? So now, we've got this garment ready to wear out the door, done with the OKI white toner system, forever low temp paper, and just adding one extra step, the hot stamp foil. So now that we've got that shirt knocked out, let's move on to our last project of the day, which is FlexSoft material. Now basically what FlexSoft material is, it is a self-weeding vinyl material that works in a similar fashion to the Forever Low Temp Laser Dark. As a matter of fact, the B sheets that we use to weed Forever Low Temp Laser Dark are the same B sheets that we use to weed FlexSoft material. It's essentially the same process, but the difference being is that there's a slight temperature difference. Instead of going at about 300 degrees Fahrenheit, we need to go for about 275 to 80 Fahrenheit. So I'm going to make a quick adjustment to my heat press here. And another thing that I wanted to point out is kind of like with the hot stamping foil, we're basically using the toner to act as a target for the adhesive glue on the B sheet. Whatever color film we send through our OKI white toner printer, ultimately that's what color we're going to get on the graphic. Now, like I said, when it comes to using the FlexSoft material, if I have my 8432 or my 711WT, I prefer to print in what's called composite black, CMY printing. Now, while this does use a little extra toner than, let's say, like printing true black, it gives me a nice toner layer for the glue sheet or the bead sheet to feel and sense and weed. But when it comes to an 8432 or the bigger unit that they call the 9541 WT, you have the ability to print a true black. Now with a 9541 WT, the true black is basically built in because it's a 4-color model. But when it comes to the 8432 WT, they have an option of what they call a black toner swap. Now, as I'm getting some prints ready, Jim, could you take a second to explain to the audience what the black toner swap program is and how it works?
Certainly, Doug. Thank you. You're doing a great job, by the way. It's been wonderful. Amazing skill. But in terms of the black toner, both the OKI Pro 8432 WT and the Pro 9541 WT give you the option of integrating and using black. The benefits are you get the flexibility, especially if you're doing lighter or white objects or white shirts, to incorporate true black into your artwork. That's great for those lighter surfaces. And the key benefit is you get very sharp details, especially if you're printing small items. Let's say you're printing a mug or awards, you got text on it. Always using black toner is the preferred method of putting text down, especially smaller text. On dark shirts, black toner is not as critical because you have both the darkness of the shirt to play with, but you can create a very good black by combining cyan, magenta, and yellow. And that's all taken care of automatically with the color matching that's built in both the printer as well as the FlexSoft.
Okay, so I know that when you, let's say like, if you want to exercise that option, you take your white toner and drum out, you install a black toner and drum into the 8432. Is there anything else that you need to do, let's say like from the driver side of things, to kind of tell the printer that there's black inside of the machine instead of white?
You're absolutely right, Doug. There's different driver settings that you need to indicate in your PostScript driver to let the driver know that it needs to manage the colors differently and start to incorporate black when it's processing your image and sending it to the printer.
Gotcha. Appreciate the time on that one, Jim. What I am doing here is, and this is a trick that I learned from my good friend, Christopher Sigmund at Forever Paper. What we're doing is using corners to act as essentially an alignment tool. I've taken some pieces of heat tape and notched these 2 corners here. Now I trim the rest of it away because, like I said, sometimes the B sheet may make a line indentation on the A foil. Now we can remove the line indentation, like I said, but it becomes difficult the more layers that we add upon. So I am basically using this template trick that Mr. Sigmund taught me to see if we can get these 2 prints to line up properly. So after doing a quick edge trim here, I should have this one ready to go. And it looks like my heat press is about to cool down, so there's the signal. Hopefully we can make this work. Okay, what I did, I went ahead and applied my first layer. Again, the Forever FlexSoft No Cut weeds just like the Forever LowTemp Laser Dart. So we put our A foil sheet and our B sheet together, 1.5 minutes, 2 minutes. Peel them apart hot. Then I take the A foil with the emulsion back, set it to the garment. On the first layer down, I went the normal directions, 30 seconds, medium pressure. Gave this design time to cool. And like the other products, we want to roll the material. And now we've got our outside emblem. So if we've done our alignment trick correct, align my corner in this notch here and here. And I'm looking through my design. Looks like we are lined up pretty well. Okay, so I'm going to grab a couple of pieces of heat tape so I can secure the corner here and here. Now I'll move it over to my heat press. Let's make sure that we get the image as smooth as we can. Let's make sure we cover with a protective sheet. And just like the trick with the hot stamping foil, whenever we're doing our second layer or third layer or fourth layer, we want to reduce the dwell time to about 10 to 15 seconds. So in other words, give the FlexSoft material with the emulsion underneath it enough time to stick to the garment, but not so much time that it sticks to the layer that we've already laid down, if you follow my meaning there. That should get it done there. Let's take our shirt. And again, I'm going to use my piece of aluminum to rapidly cool. Hopefully that's got it. And so now at this point, I start removing my heat tape. Get it up from that corner there. Get it up from that corner there. And again, see how we didn't stick? Oh, my alignment skills were a little off, but hopefully you get the gist of the demonstration. One thing I will point out here, and let me flip this shirt around. You know how I mentioned sometimes that you might get a little bit of the emulsion edge here on the garment where it didn't belong? Let's see if we can fix this while setting the design at the same time. What I'm going to do, I'm going to put this shirt back on my heat press. I'm going to take a piece of heat tape and I'm going to lay it over that line. And this time I'm going to fold a little corner of the tape so I can grab it off and not look like a goober. All right. Now let's set our original design with a nonstick silicone sheet. I'm going to put a protective sheet over that. And we're going to set the design for 30 seconds. Now, what I'm going to do is, as soon as I lift the press, I want to take that piece of heat tape that I've stuck over that indentation line and just pull it right off as fast as I can. Hopefully what's going to happen is, since there's really no toner and emulsion to kind of set it to the garment, that basically by getting it hot and using the adhesive from the heat tape, we're just going to pull it right off. There it is. So now you have your two-tone Forever FlexSoft no-cut shirt. And like I said, if we have a little bit of excess in there, auto-correct tool. If there's no emulsion holding it down, we can peel the excess right off, clean off any loose debris. And we got a garment ready to wear out the door. Okay. So basically that kind of concludes our presentation for the day. And what we wanted to demonstrate was you've got a very powerful tool in an OKI white toner system. We can do these full color designs using white as a process color or white as a background color. We can go on all these different fabric materials. Using a few extra steps with some products that are available, we can enhance these graphics even more beyond the capability of what a typical OKI white toner system can produce. Why do we do this? So that you can add value to your design. The statement I always make at a trade show is the difference between a $4 shirt and a $40 shirt is the artwork that you put on it. So if you learn to produce better artwork with your OKI system, if you learn these tricks just to add some enhancements or add some features to your own artwork or your own collection, well, at that point, you're enhancing your value, you're bringing in more profit. Now, as far as this presentation is concerned, we didn't even touch on the other things that the OKI white toner system can do with varying transfer paper, such as being able to decorate colored hard substrates, as far as being able to produce water slide decals, to go on to products like leather or wood or metal or plastic. There's just a variety of things that an OKI white toner system can do. And if you ever need to learn how, so to speak, or what the value that this system can deliver, well, don't hesitate to call on us in Conde Systems and let us know. Now, beyond that, if there are any questions from the audience, Jim, RJ?
Doug, we have got some really great questions. One of the ones is whether or not there's any training available directly at Conde on site. Do you offer any courses?
Courses or on-site training. As far as on-site training is concerned, your best bet for that would be to get in touch with your account manager. Usually we can do it. We just require an appointment. Now that's under normal circumstances, given the fact that we're still in the COVID-19 pandemic. Our office is kind of temporarily shut down to outside traffic. But as soon as we all defeat the COVID, believe me, if you need to come in on site, do some training, be more than happy to do that. What we tend to do is use our YouTube channel, which is called Conde TV, as our main training method. I try to produce as many videos as I can demonstrating these steps so that everyone knows we have a complete tutorial series on the Forever Transfer RIP that I demonstrated earlier. So we try to put as much documentation as we can online in the form of, basically video tutorials. But if you're that type of person where you just benefit better from having, one-on-one work, so to speak, on learning how to do it, like I said, the best bet would be to get in touch with your Conde account manager to make an arrangement.
Great. Another question regarding the Forever RIP. What formats does the design have to be in for the design to be imported into the Forever RIP?
That's a very good question. The Forever Transfer RIP can accept numerous design formats. The two that I prefer to work in is either work with a PDF with a transparent background, or if you're working in Photoshop, Illustrator, working with a PNG with a transparent background. Now, of course, we can download any other bitmap format, such as JPEGs or TIFFs, into the RIP as well. What it will not accept would be like a native CorelDRAW file. Now, I tend to use CorelDRAW for my design work because it's what I grew up with. So basically what I do is as soon as I finish my graphic, I will save it in CorelDRAW as a PDF with a transparent background. And then at that point, I can import into the RIP. But I hope that answers your question. We do have a manual, actual user's manual, technical manual on the transfer RIP that you can download from our site, or you can contact one of our account managers or technical support. They can get it to you. But in that manual, it'll list all the file formats that the RIP will accept. So like I said, it'll be numerous file formats, just not anything native like CorelDRAW.
Doug, one attendee has laser light. I guess it's Forever Laser Light No Cut. Is the process the same as what you demonstrated today with Forever Laser Dark?
No, actually the process is different, Jim, and that's because the Forever Laser Light is designed to be a single sheet self-weeding transfer. Basically, it's using the weight of the accumulated toner on the emulsion as far as when to separate from its backing sheet when heat is applied. So if you're able to use it properly, the great thing about it is it's essentially one press to apply the design to the garment. I think if there is a downside to a single sheet self-weed in general, is that it takes some practice to learn when to peel that backing sheet so that you get consistent results. If you peel too soon, you get a lot of design left on the backing sheet and the design doesn't look good on the garment. If you peel too late, you get a lot of excess emulsion where it doesn't belong. Just for my money, I like to use a two-paper system like the Forever Low Temp Laser Dark, or in the case of a light product, the Nina Image Clip Laser Light works very well. The reason I like using a two-paper system is because if you make a mistake in the marrying or self-weeding process, if you know what to look for, you're not going to take that mistake and apply it to a garment. In other words, if you mess up with a two-step paper, you're out the transfer. If you mess up with a single sheet self-weed, you're out the transfer and the garment. If you're in a high volume setting where you can afford a little bit of shrinkage to a messed up shirt here or there, single sheet self-weeds work well for that purpose. If you're doing customized or small production runs, like I said, for my money, I tend to stick with a two-part system, but that's just my opinion.
Doug, does Conde typically bundle the software with the printer?
We try to, yes. Now, of course, this is America, and you always have the option of refusing the software, but we look at the Forever Transfer RIP. You know, the best analogy I could give you, Jim, is I can't sell you a sailboat without a rudder. I can't sell you an automobile without a transmission. Basically, that's what the Forever RIP is. The Forever RIP is essentially the rudder that controls the direction of the color output, the white toner output. I feel it's an integral part of the system. Way back in the beginning, when we first started carrying these OKI white toner systems, we basically sold it as an option. After playing around with the RIP and seeing what the RIP does, not only the fact that it softens up these transfers tremendously, but it also adds to the durability. You factor in cost savings on top of that. At that point, yeah, whenever you get a system from us, we usually try to package the RIP in. We absolutely do, because like I said, we feel it's a necessary tool. Now, if you're proficient enough in Photoshop or Illustrator, if you know how to set up a screening effect in Photoshop or Illustrator, if you know how to basically create a white mask, you can get by without the RIP, but it takes an experienced user to do that. Along that vein, though, we are now offering some educational materials. One thing I'll mention is we're carrying a book now by Dane Clement, who owns Great Dane Graphics. You know, I'd be familiar with him. He comes to the shows all the time as well. He wrote a book specifically on setting up artwork for white toner printing systems. You know, basically how to apply these screening features, how to create your own mask, so to speak. So long story short, if you're proficient enough in software, you can do the work that the RIP does without a RIP. If you're like me and you're kind of software ignorant, so to speak, having the one-click ability in the RIP makes it very easy. From a production standpoint, it's definitely how I would go.
Doug, another great question. What are the benefits of the OKI digital transfer process compared to DTG?
Well, I would say primarily benefits, you know, well, let's start with this, Jim. I would say if there's one benefit that a DTG system has over, let's say, something like an OKI white toner system or other white toner systems out there, is that liquid ink is always going to be more vibrant when we first put it on a garment. So if you were looking at two shirts with the same graphic, one done with the OKI system, one done with the DTG, in the very beginning, I would probably say the DTG print's a little more vibrant. But what we got to understand is With a DTG system, you're not just getting the DTG, you also have to get pre-treatment. Pre-treatment is a key element in the DTG process. If you don't apply the pre-treatment properly, essentially you'll never get a DTG system to work properly because it's so reliant on that pre-treatment. The other downsides that I see to direct-to-garment systems is that the white ink that they use is made out of an compound titanium dioxide. And titanium dioxide, simply put, clogs if you let it sit stagnant for more than 24, 48 hours. That's why you're starting to see some of these new systems with this built-in agitator. It's basically to keep the ink shooken up so that it doesn't congeal. But what happens to most people is the ink will congeal in their line or in their heads. And of course, they've got to call a repairman to come out and fix it. When it comes to DTGs, you got to keep them running constantly if you're going to keep them running effectively. What I like about an OKI system is the fact that DTG inks are geared towards certain fabric materials. Like you got to get an ink for cotton or you got to get an ink for polyester. Well, what happens if you got a 50-50 blend? You really don't have a solution. Because OKI is a toner-based system and we're using transfer papers that can go on all different types of fabric materials, we're not having to change out toner constantly. We're not having to change our process. We're not having to apply pre-treatment. All we've got to concern about is picking the right paper for the right fabric material. So in a nutshell, I would say that the OKI system is a better system for what I would call the infrequent decorator. Somebody who needs to produce, let's say like colored garments, maybe they have some jobs for some color hard substrate materials, but you don't have a high demand every day. You know, maybe your average job is, 6 to 12 dark garment shirts per job, as opposed to something like 48 or 72 or 144 a day. So like I said, when it comes to that type of business model, I think the OKI fits in perfectly because we're dealing with dry toner, not liquid ink. And and I know, toner never expires. So, the great thing about an OKI is you could have it off for 3 days, you could have it off for 3 weeks or 3 months. When you need it, turn it on and print.
Another question frequently asked is the durability of the shirts that you created with the foil.
Durability of shirts that I create with foil. Well, we're bringing the foil on, but like I said, we did our durability test months ago. We've been conducting it for months. I have a sample pool here that I generally call upon. They're my shipping department. So whenever I need to test garments, I pick up shirts for the shipping department because these guys are back in the warehouse in, 100-degree temperature and they wash their shirts a lot, and I keep track of their wash cycles. I can tell you that from the testing that we have done, not only myself, but using the shipping department as my guinea pigs, we've gone 40, 50 washings. The only deterioration that we're seeing is the deterioration either from the low temp laser dark underneath or the actual garment itself. Because a 100% cotton garment, when you hot wash it, hot dry it 40, 50 times, eventually it's going to start to break down. And when it breaks down, the graphic is going to go with it. But as far as the hot stamping foil is concerned, we were surprised as to just how durable the product is. Once you essentially fuse it to low temp laser dark, I would say it's just as durable as low temp laser dark by itself.
Great. Another question was simply about the different printers that OKI offers. I'll speak to that one. We have 3 models that include white toner. At the entry level is the C711WT, and it essentially includes white toner and has the ability to print on letter size and legal size transfers. The next model moving up would be the 8432, which Doug used today to create his transfers. That supports tabloid sheets, the larger sheets that Doug printed. And then the third model, the third model is the Pro 9541 WT, a very, very strong production product. It includes 5 colors, CMY, cyan, magenta, yellow, black, as well as white. There's no swapping required. That printer comes with a lot of toner and is really ready to go for people that really have a production need.
And by the way, all of those units are available here at Conde Systems. As a matter of fact, the 711 WT, thank you for the price reduction, guys. That unit is now available for $2,495. So if you were starting out brand new and you wanted to invest, let's say like the minimum, maybe to test the market, see how it does. Basically, if you were starting out and needed everything from the beginning, by the time you acquire a 711 WT and a good swing away heat press and supplies, you can realistically come in at just under $4,000 for the entire setup.
Doug, we got a lot of questions. We're up against the hour. I think it's time that we sign off. What we'll do is we'll take the questions and we'll answer them and distribute to everybody that attended the conference today. And I thank you very much. You did a great job today. It was extremely informative. I learned a few techniques myself today, and I thank you for that.
Well, you're welcome, Jim. You're welcome, RJ. Thank you for having us. We appreciate the opportunity to demonstrate on your virtual trade show here. And if you want to tackle other topics down the road, don't hesitate to give us a call. Let us know. We're here to help out.
Thank you, Doug.
All right,
Thanks
take
a lot,
care.
Doug. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.